Hello and welcome to the 8-man Nightmare Mode Dreadguards Boss Fight Guide. My name's Hayete, and today I'll be covering with you everything you need to know to successfully complete the second fight in the Terror from Beyond operation. For this encounter, we suggest you bring a standard composition of 2 tanks, 4 DPS, and 2 healers. Any class composition will be more than capable of beating this fight. However, certain classes will make this fight much easier to handle and will give you an inherent edge. These classes will be discussed during strategy explanation. Furthermore, in this guide I'll only be covering the Nightmare-specific mechanics and strategies. For the foundational mechanics and strategies, please take a moment and watch our Hard Mode Dreadguards guide before continuing through this one. That will get you up to speed on everything you need to know prior to watching this guide. Alright, let's dive into the DPS requirements for this fight. This encounter was analyzed using the same methodology as the hard mode analysis. Again, because there are periods of downtime and bosses heal to full between each defeated boss, this encounter was analyzed using a per phase analysis. And then, an average was estimated based on those results. This means, quite simply, that there will be some inherent error in this calculation based on your own team's composition and damage output. Anyway, represented here is that analysis. As you can see, the DPS required to beat this encounter is quite high. Overall, the DPS required increased by 40% from hard mode to nightmare. This makes this fight extremely reliant on having high DPS to push through the encounter, since the enrage time remains the same as the hard mode fight. To the point, you need to push 40% more DPS out, with no extra time allotted to do so. Okay, so now let me go over the new mechanics for this encounter. Number 1. Doom. Doom behaves in the exact same manner as it did in hard mode. However, each player receiving Doom will gain 6 stacks now instead of 3. Number 2. Vitality Extraction and Expiatory Mote. Vitality Extraction and Expiatory Mote now extend into Phase 3. Everything about these mechanics looks and behaves just like the Phase 2 green variants. In fact, the debuff is the exact same for Vitality Extraction. The 3 main differences here are that this new mechanic only occurs while fighting Kelsara, the Expiatory Mote debuff is visually red instead of green, and if Expiatory Mote is gained by a player, they will take massive amounts of damage compared to the green variant. Alright, now let me show you how to deal with these new mechanics and the strategies you can employ. First of all, you'll want to play Phase 1 the exact same as in hard mode. The timing intervals on some of the mechanics has changed from hard mode to nightmare. Here you'll see the new timing intervals for the Phase 1 mechanics. With that said, in the hard mode guide, I laid out for you several classes, some spec specific, that could completely mitigate all damage from the lightning field. This phase goes much smoother the more players you have capable of doing this. This is not to say that you must have these classes, but only to inform you that they make this phase much more manageable the more you have. As you push into Phase 2, you'll want to play this phase almost the same as hard mode, with one exception. In hard mode, I told you guys it was more or less okay to group up Cyphus and Kelsara while moving through Phase 2. For Nightmare though, I highly encourage you to separate them. By separate, I do not mean on opposite sides of the room, but far enough away that any damage spread on Cyphus will not reach Kelsara. With that said, you should still have your tank not currently on Cyphus putting DPS on him at every available opportunity. Again, as in Phase 1 in the hard mode guide, I listed for you classes, again some spec specific, that were able to completely mitigate Doom. One we discovered after the release of that guide was specific to the Gunnery Commando and Arsenal Mercenary specs. These two can use Diversion and Chaff Flare respectively to completely mitigate the Doom mechanic. So with that said, I highly encourage you guys to bring DPS players capable of mitigating this mechanic. Here again, for ease of access, is that list to include the Commando and Mercenary. Again, you do not have to have these classes to beat the fight, but they will make your life so much easier if you do. Additionally, Phase 2 underwent some time interval changes as well. I've annotated here those changes for those who are looking to really dive deeper into perfecting this fight. As you move through Phase 2, I highly suggest you coordinate your group's dropping of vitality extractions. The following diagram is an example of how we suggest you set up your group as you move around Phase 2, and how to properly drop these circles. If this is done properly, then only ranged players will have to deal with Siphus's Strangle. Furthermore, by using this setup, you can more or less guarantee the direction Siphus will leap, and better control his movement around the room. Vitality extraction circles should be stacked as closely together as possible to maximize the amount of open space available to you later. Overlapping these and pushing them as far into the walls as possible will help with this strategy. So once Siphus is defeated and you're left with Kelsara, this is where your proficiency in Phase 2 will make or break you. Confusing? Well, let me explain. As you push into Phase 3, Kelsara will start to push out vitality extractions at the same rate as vitality extraction in Phase 2 by Siphus. Players will want to drop these against the wall and in the same manner as in Phase 2. If a player stands in one of these, they will receive the Expiatory Moat debuff, which does a huge amount of damage over time. To get rid of this debuff, the player must run into a green vitality extraction circle. Doing so will remove the green circle and replace the red Expiatory Moat debuff with a green one. These new vitality extractions make this phase a pain if players are not extremely focused. However, the same method as hard mode should be used. Keep her towards a wall and do not get knocked back into a vitality extraction circle. Adds will still need to be defeated and will still spawn at the hard mode percentages. Do your best to avoid dropping vitality extraction circles in the middle where the adds are, otherwise you may cut off your melee players. Okay, so that is the standard strategy for Phase 3. Now let me give you an even simpler one. If you can manage to come out of Phase 2 with at least 12 green vitality extraction circles down on the floor, then the red variant will not spawn. This means you can play Phase 3 the exact same as in hard mode, more or less, and ignore this new mechanic. You'll want to hold Kelsara in the middle of the room, however, and AoE adds as they spawn. This is why proper execution of Phase 2 and having multiple group members capable of mitigating Doom makes this fight so much easier, since you won't need to use vitality extraction circles and will easily gain 12 by Phase 3. The red vitality extraction circles you get, however, are proportional to the green vitality extractions, so they balance out. If you, for example, have 12 greens and accidentally stand in one, you drop down to 11 greens available. A red vitality extraction will then go out to even out the total circles to 12. So you'll get one red and then no more. This strategy makes this fight extremely simple during Phase 3 and allows less movement and more focus on DPS to beat the Enrage. So that's the fight, guys. I think the most important takeaway for this fight is individual player awareness as it relates to vitality extraction circles for both green and red circles. How your group handles these will either make your life hell or make this fight practically hard mode. So if this video helped you, please feel free to pay it forward and help us by dropping us a like and subscribing. If you have any questions, suggestions, tips and tricks, or think of something I may have missed, please feel free to leave them in the comment section below. So until next time, guys, take care and enjoy the fight.
Those who will not serve will die! We are the chosen!
Your struggle only prolongs the pain. The Master's command, the Force obeys. Your struggle only prolongs the pain. The Master's command, the Force obeys. Your struggle only prolongs the pain. I am a small sacrifice.
The Masters guide us, while you remain blind. You will welcome death before the end. The Masters guide us, while you remain blind. You will welcome death before the end. The Masters guide us, while you remain blind. You will welcome death before the end. The Masters guide us, while you remain blind. You will welcome death before the end. The Masters guide us, while you remain blind.